Okay, so that now that we finished with our thumbnails, let's bring it into a blank canvas. You don't have to do this. I like to do this just because I like to start with a new like blank canvas instead. So I'm gonna try and make some skeletal outlines out of this, basically the line art, just some concrete groundwork where we can start working off of. I like to use the same thumbnails that I've made. I copy paste them onto this canvas and then I work directly off them. That way, I can preserve the gesture and the flow of the original ideas instead of working again from scratch and losing that feel along the way. Because that's what I feel like often ends up happening is when you refine and you go through like so many iterations by starting from scratch again and again, like you lose the flow and the appeal of like the very first draft that you had. Now, my thumbnail is really messy and indistinct, so I often like to work in with like more I like to work in more details. Again with like the no pressure pen, like facial features, flow of the hair clumps and all that. So now I just shape the hair. This way I'll know exactly it'll be easier for me when I detail in with the line art. So first I set the hair parting and as well as the hair clumps of like how I want to separate the hair. I've determined the shape of the hair before in the thumbnail and now I'm just gonna like break down the part, like I'm gonna break down the whole thing into some parts. Again, the no pen pressure pen is really useful because you don't get caught up in making any mistakes. They're all like it's a lot more loose and a lot more indistinct. Okay, I don't really like the shape of this hair. Um, yeah, I think I want it to curve a bit just to give motion of wind blowing her hair. So she's gonna have like a bob, like a straight cut bob, and this type of hair is very nice as a shape, but it is a little bit harder for me to set down the flow of it just because it's so boxy and the way the hair cuts off is just so straight. It's a little bit hard to make it more natural. Now let's try focusing on the face or like the shape of the face. So for front-faced characters or like art, I tend to just draw one eye. Um I know a lot of artists they draw one eye and just copy paste it, and that's been a bad habit that I've been doing as well. And her body anatomy is also really messy, so I didn't put much thought into accuracy when I was sketching her gestures. So I'm gonna add in more details to this. Let's define the torso a little bit. So I'm just gonna try defining her bust right here, just the upper part, and so I really like adding these like topology that makes it look kind of 3D. It's it's not a must. It helps me a lot to keep in mind for its shape in the future as I'm drawing this. It's also to help me avoid making things look a bit flat. So yeah. I noticed that I tend to make the torsos a lot longer in the gestures, and then as I'm sketching them out like this, I realize that, it's actually a lot more anatomically correct if it was a bit shorter. Now let's move on to the legs, the hips and the thighs. Since she'll be sitting down on a swing, it's not gonna exactly be like your usual perspective, so I might have to shorten and exaggerate the curves over here. And these will be her knees, and a huge part of her lower body is also gonna be like, okay, yeah. Again, I think like the torso is a bit too long. Let's try making that a bit smaller so that it's a little bit more proportionate. She's not too heavy on the lower side. Yeah, okay. So yeah, the skirt is gonna cover up a lot of the lower half anyway, so I was a bit concerned with how that would translate in the, because it's gonna cover up a lot of the anatomy. But let's try just defining the arms first. Now let's try adding in the hands. I like using these boxy shapes because they sort of break down these organic shapes of the body to a more definite geometric shape that it it yeah, you can see the flow, and like it's a lot easier for me to keep in mind just where I want the fingers to, the directions that they would face. So I think I'm just gonna keep both of the both of the hands facing toward the body instead. And now her right hand is a little bit big. Let's make that smaller. And I'm also gonna add in some more details for the clothes. So I like keeping the silhouette of the outfit clear and defined. Like I don't have to add in too many details. I think this was the planned design that I had for her. Or maybe I should give her puffy sleeves. Not entirely sure yet. Or maybe not. I think it detracts away from her shape, the shape of her silhouette. Okay, so this will be like the front part of her skirt, the one that looks kind of like an apron. Since her legs aren't really showing that she's in a sitting down position, I'm gonna have to communicate that with her clothes instead. So let's try adding just a bit perspective here, like tell the audience that that's the direction, that's the perspective. And I remember that she has these really big puffy skirt that I plan for her to have. It is a little bit sad though because I will be covering a lot of her lower legs instead, so that might be a bit hard to communicate, but okay, let's add her hat. Back to her skirt now. Again, big and puffy. Struggling a little bit just because I'm gonna have to cover a lot of the legs, and it might be hard to show that she's sitting down because of that. Let's add in the ruffles. Yeah, hopefully this will show. So I'm gonna speed up this next portion just because it's a progress video of my initial draft of the line art that I ended up scrapping and starting over. It happens sometimes, like I spend a couple hours working on these line art drafts and then I feel like something's not just isn't quite right, so I ended up working again from the very beginning, like I start over. It's tedious work, but I like line art, so I power through it. So I really, really actually do like line art. I know a lot of artists, they don't start with line art. They go straight, like they go ham, they add in the rendering, the face, the painting and everything, like just straight from a thumbnail. But I personally just like line art. You know, I started out with using ink on traditional paper, and that has been something that I grew fond of, and that's why I still want to incorporate it within my workflow. Um, it's just something I really, really enjoy. And also I found that I really like seeing how the skeletal outline of the illustration or like the figure would look before I add in colors. It is quite nice in itself when I see it like that.